Save America Act, did that get the vote and didn't go well? Am I accurate on that statement?
I've not seen the final on that. There's been a lot of horrible discussions about that. But is Congress back? Because it's like they're all talking individually, but is there anybody in the House? We're still trying to figure that out because they sent themselves away when they were supposed to be voting and gave themselves another vacation. So, but while we were on Cash, I don't know if we have the other thing on Cash. Something really exploded today because he's doing this on the elections. Guess what? The Southern Poverty Law Center, they went against him. And there was an Atlantic article of trying to destroy him and say he's drinking on the job and he's an alcoholic and, so you got to destroy the character of the person who's coming against you. Mm-hmm. But they had no idea what he had on them. So I don't know if we can bring that up.
So our producer, I think we've got that audio clip of Kash Patel. You can just run it. I'll chat until it interrupts me, so you can run it as soon as you...
The Southern Poverty Law Center themselves advertise to raise money to dismantle violent extremist groups for a period of at least a decade. They use their donor network to raise money to purportedly dismantle violent extremist groups. However, the SPLC, the Southern Poverty Law Center, used the money they raised from their donor network to actually pay the leadership of these very groups. I just want to say that again. They used the fraudulently raised money by lying to their donor network, thousands of Americans, to go ahead and actually pay the leadership of these supposed violent extremist groups. The groups, as the general laid out, include the Ku Klux Klan, the United Klans of America, Unite to Right, National Alliance, the National Socialist Movement, the Aryan Nation Motorcycle Club, and the National Socialist Party of America, and also the American Front.
Go get him, Cash. Incredible information.
This is going to relate in point 42. I can't wait to see how it relates. How amazing is this? So I'm going to hold that till we get into point 42.
Okay. Let's take a look at this image. Enter into the equation, as we are clearly on the offense here. Enter Joe DeGenova. He has now been tapped to lead the DOJ probe into Brennan over Russia probe origins. So let the show begin, folks. The record has to be set straight, and the public needs to be made aware of what went down in 2020 election. And in my opinion, prior to the midterms is when all this is going to begin to unfold, hopefully very, very soon. The low-lying fruit, we'll call them, Brennan, Clapper, and so forth, will lead to Obama. May very well be. I mean, we can't forecast dates, but these are events that are coming, and they're coming clearly, in my view, pretty soon. So, what are your views about Joe DeGenova? I think he's 81 years old. I think he's a tough guy. He knows the situation. He was there when it was happening, the election theft. I'm thrilled to see him as the choice. What are your thoughts?
It's going to be phenomenal because he's an amazing, amazing man. I've heard him on interviews for a long time, and what a brain that man has. It's just amazing. But here's another Brennan story. Did you know that Brennan had kept a Russian missile? It was a Red October moment in America. This is what he did. He held that missile, and that was coming in on a submarine from Britain, and they had the admiral and the captain on the submarine, just like what happened in Red October. And it was exactly when Pelosi, remember when Pelosi made agreements until everybody at Andrews Base was handpicked by her to load her up, and 93 or 98 of her relatives to go over to Europe and be gone for a few days? And then there was a meme out where the president was standing by the drapes in the Oval Office, but he was looking at the Rose Garden, but he was saying, wait, 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 wait. Okay, now tell Nancy she's not going anywhere. And then all of her luggage came back on carts and was by her office. Remember that time? Here's something nobody seems to remember. Donna Brazile was made the head of the Democratic Party. Donna Brazile sent a text to her thinking she'd already taken off. This is already happening. She sent a text to her and said, "Welcome home, Madam President." That missile was set up as a Russian missile to hit the White House, and they had the timing of the meeting when the president and Pence were going to be in the meeting. So she was going to come back to America as the president because she was the Speaker of the House. You see how this works?
Yes.
And it was Brennan that hatched that up with Pelosi. Yeah, God always gives me to connect the dots, and I thought, that's the weirdest thing. And I thought, who's Donna Brazile? And then I saw the Donna Brazile thing, because Donna Brazile and this other woman were at the hospital before 4 a.m. when Seth Rich's body wasn't even at the hospital yet. So how come they were there? And I told friends then, they said, well, what were you doing watching this? I said, well, God draws my attention to it. Well, what's funny about it, I said, why were two women in full makeup before 4 a.m. at a hospital when the body they were looking for wasn't even there yet? And no one had reported. Why would they report to them about what's going on? That was when the MS-13 took out Seth Rich. Do you know who the other woman was? I never knew the name until President Trump raised the Bible up and said, this is our rule of law during the Antifa things in D.C., and he's back at the church they tried to burn down the night before. And the mayor was responsible, and here comes a picture of the mayor, and it wasn't even 24 or 48 hours, and Donna Brazile, either she had already left Fox or she had just come on Fox from CNN, whichever one she switched to, she was on a panel. And I think it was on Fox because I remember the financial guy was at the end. And what was she saying? Her life partner. And the life partner's name is the same name as the woman who's the mayor of D.C. And that was the name of the woman that was at the hospital. So you see, these guys have been operating in ways and with each other that we didn't even know they were doing. But all of this set up with Brennan this is just one of the activities they did because she's over the DNC. Donna Brazile put herself over the DNC when Wasserman Schultz was in there and then went into Congress.
Yeah. Very, very sneaky people, but, nothing, let me rephrase that, everything will be exposed. All these details like you're talking about and so much more, nothing is going to be hidden right now. And I'd like to run this clip. It's a subtle, not so subtle perhaps, message from President Trump. This was published, I believe, on X. I went over it in great detail on my Global Financial Reset show. It's economic related. But to my producer, let's run this clip. 1929 is the title of the clip. Run the clip. Now, it is 1929, New York City streets, and people can read into that in a few different ways. But the way I see that clip is there's everybody going about their life, and you got that nice, happy music playing. Of course, it was colorized, but, and all of a sudden, just going about business, going down Fifth Avenue or whatever it was, and then they're on a soup kitchen line. That's how that looks to me. But if those that want to challenge that it's a soup kitchen line because it's been done already, fine. But the clip is called 1929. I think we get the message. We know what happened in 29. This is a nice Trump calm. Also interesting to note, if you notice, I didn't see the ladies with nose rings, blue hair, tattoos all over their face, or in their pajamas. Just a little sidebar, but that's a not so subtle message from the president. 1929, folks, is letting us know. Get ready. Something's coming in the economic arena. And that leads us to Frank Sinatra. Let's run a bit of this clip. President Trump also published this on the social platforms. Another subtle calm. All right, old blue eyes. And now the end is near. There's a message from the president, as well as Melania's dress, that with the white dress and that bizarre black artistry on it. It's been researched to some artists. That's called the final act. We have a lot of these themes coming out. What do you make of all that?
It's a pretty clear message. It came out from Dan, came out from the president, came out from Dan again, and it's the timing, and every timing has a stamp that pretty much says the same thing from Q. So the deltas are matching up constantly now.
Wow.
Our friend is sending out the 6 and 8 year old. They're all the same. It's all matching up now. Took a long time to get here.
All right. Oh, it sure did. And unfortunately, we're not going to delve too much into this right now. I've beaten it up on other shows, and so is Dan Scavino. You and I, Sheila, were talking before we got on camera about the influencer, the podcaster world, from the top shelf down, from the Tucker Carlson level down to the space that perhaps we're occupying as well. And Dan Scavino, I don't have the image right now, but published last week on the social platforms, basically closed it out and he said, I see you. We're watching you. Basically, the podcasters that are going south, that are into this for the wrong reasons, and that clearly are turning against the president. Then the following day, the president published, a direct counter piece to Tucker Carlson, Megyn Kelly, Candace Owens, Alex Jones, and I think another individual I can't remember. So we have that little distraction, a little battle going on over here. There's so many things happening, but I'd be happy to see. Let me ask you, what are your views? Because in my opinion, the big five names I just mentioned, Marjorie Taylor Greene was the fifth one. These are some very notable names that in the past were very supportive of President Trump. And all of a sudden, they're saying these crazy things about the president. And I'm wondering what your thoughts are. Is this part of, are they playing a role? We got a lot of psyops within psyops. Are they playing a role for some other reason that we'll benefit from later, or perhaps even now? Are they part of that? Are they clueless, or are they enemies? It's kind of hard, and each person's a bit. And I'm wondering if one or two of them are even central casting, particularly in Alex Jones. What's your opinions and comments? I'm sure we can't nail this one down, but it is an interesting observation. What are your thoughts about that?
President Trump has taken a stand that they can't stand with. He's called the nation to prayer. We're going to rededicate this nation as the Pilgrims dedicated this nation. He has said that. He read the same scripture that was in my first book, that was repeated in my first book repeatedly, and that's the book he asked for the second copy of back in 2016. He received the first copy before he was elected, and then he asked for another one on December 11. I remember it so well because he never got it. Post office sent it all over the world, it seemed like, and then he was supposed to be available for his pickup on January 24 after he was inaugurated in 2017. And that was constantly in there because if we don't go through the process of repentance, it's impossible to restore. And he chose those scriptures and he read those scriptures. That was international on Tuesday night when he read that scripture. And he read the whole thing, giving the instructions, because this is where you are now. But if you will do what I'm asking you to do, then I will restore you. Because we're that hunk of dust. We're the land. We were made from the dust, and the dust we return. That's the game. That's how Adam was made, and that's it. So we're that hunk of dust. So until we restore, because he's setting us up to win. And the only way to win is get aligned with the Father. And that is so against who these people are. We thought we all thought the same. We don't. And we found it out during COVID. Even people sitting in the same pew at a church, they didn't think the same you thought. People in your family aren't thinking the same you think. And so we're finding out that we're not all thinking the same thing. So what he did by doing all of this, by calling us to prayer, by asking the people to pray before you come on May 17, to do 50 days of prayer. He did this 40 days in advance. What's that? That's the 40 days that Jonah gave to the king of Assyria. You're doing a Gentile worship. You're holding my people, captive from the 10 tribes of the north of Israel. Unless you repent of everything and you come back to me, I'm going to overthrow you as a king. That was a message from Jonah. So everybody prayed and everybody repented. And because they all repented, God relented. And then what happened? 100 years later, Nahum goes and he said, you're getting the jig's up. You guys are done. God's done. And so then God told the king that I have dispersed them throughout the lands, and you will never see where they are. I'm just paraphrasing. I'm not a Bible scholar, but it's a short little book, just like Jonah. And I think there's one in between, maybe Micah. So it's Jonah, and then maybe Micah, and then Nahum, and it's 100 years later in 612 BC, and they walked for a year and a half. That's all in the Apocrypha, which is why they removed that from the Bible. But the president is following all of this and warning everybody, because if we don't repent, how can Father relent? And remember when we did the 3 eclipses that put his name, his signature on our nation in 7 years, not 75 to 90 years. 3 solar eclipses happened in 7 years and put his name on our nation, and went through 6 cities named Nineveh. He gave us exactly what's happening. Will you repent so I can relent? And all of it's like a whack-a-mole right now. It's not only a whack-a-mole over in Iran, because there's a cute little map where he did a small blockade. People think the blockade is the blockade, and it's on, then it's off, then it's on, then it's off. But he ended up blocking the entire southern portion. And so now it's just not that little portion, it's the whole other portion too. So they're completely locked in. And so, because he came up with this, it's TQIIYA or something like that, Tukaya. He said, if you're going to Tukaya, which means Islamic deception, if you're going to operate in Tukaya, then I'm going to operate in Tukaya. I don't know how you pronounce that, but anybody who has that pronunciation, go ahead and tell the world, because that's what that term is. So you operate in deception. So you want to operate in deception, I'll operate in deception. And for him to read that prayer, because that is the exact instruction from the Father that saved the 10 tribes of Israel. That's the same prayer that can save everything happening here. And because it's about souls. Juan's been confirming this again and again from the very beginning. I don't care how long it takes. I just want the most souls possible to be assisted. We want as many people surviving this as possible. Because everybody's been deceived. Everybody's been programmed. It's not just the people, on your left or your right. It's us. Every one of us has gone through the same kind of programming, the same kind of thing. And I think you could look at those people in New York. I didn't see anybody that felt that they weren't worth anything. And now look at how people are feeling about their value and their worth in this world. And the way the communication has just slipped down the slippery slope, just like these 45 points take us right down to the bottom of we can't trust anybody. We can't be around anybody. Where's the integrity? Where's the accountability? That's what is just so shocking. So I had not seen that 1929 film. So thank you. Because it really brings you back to, there's really hope that we can really pull through this. Because that was after his grandfather died from wearing a mask or go to jail 100 years ago. And so in 1929, right before the crash, but there was no indication there was going to be a crash. And then people started, jumping out of windows. So we're getting ready for something. And to get ready for that, they don't want us united. They don't want us being truthful with each other. And once you do that repentance, if you're called by his name, seek his face, turn from your wicked ways, pray. I mean, that's exactly what he's asking our whole nation to do, which is exactly what Jonah went to the king and said. If you don't do this for 40 days, in 40 days, you're going to be overthrown. So even the king put out the alert. Even the king fasted and prayed. And because everyone repented, God relented for the nation of Assyria. Well, Assyria is no more, and Babylon is no more. But Assyria and Babylon took the other 2 tribes. Did you know both of them are Iraq? Why do you suppose they left our guys in Iraq all those years and didn't care what was happening with them? And now they're thinking all the PTSD has to do with the war. It's not just the war. They were on that soil where all of that evil was happening every day. That was the whole focus of it. It was a completely different lifestyle. So they ship our guys over there and ship their people over here. And even after Saddam Hussein's gone, they don't ship their people back over there. They leave them here, who say they're Christian, but they're not. We have entire communities in San Diego of Chaldean, and they won't talk English. They won't assimilate. They won't, and that's been since the 90s. So that's after the Iranians came. So here we are. But look what our president is doing, and doing it my way is the Father's way. I don't think it's not Trump saying I'm doing it my way. It has to be the Father's way. That's the only way to repent to the Father, to be restored and healed for what we have been through and deceived of because we're at that point. That point in time is right now.
That call to prayer, those 49 days beginning May 17th, taking us right into the 250th, July 4th, is going to be extraordinary. And since this is often said a battle between good and evil, or God and Satan, I think that the reins are leaving Satan's hands during such period of time, and the pendulum is truly shifting, and all this, as you're laying out, is clearly not has been well thought out. Let's put it that way. And at the same time, we have, our Justice Department taking care of business. We got Pam Bondi out. We've got a lot of changes and a lot of things happening. It's going to be very exciting. We have the demolition of the markets by design, in my opinion, getting the Federal Reserve notes money as debt out of the way. I mean, this is, easier said than done, but that's kind of what's happening. There's so many massive changes taking place. And so people need to prepare, pray, plan, and prepare for any counter moves. But this is the final act, as the message seems to be permeating from the various posts, from the First Lady, from the President, from Scavino, and others. Let's put up book one, image book one. Let's get into some of these points that we can cover today. Countering the 45-point plan to destroy America from within. This is a body of work, in part, reveals the structure required for current generations to secure and retain liberty and freedom, and not allow enemies, both foreign and domestic, to destroy America for future generations. Boy, you talk about domestic enemies. By the time that we're done, there'll be 95% of Congress on both sides of the aisle will be out of here. But last month, Sheila, we left off at point 43, I think it is. Why don't you take the reins and move us into point 42. What's point 42 about? Let's put on our seatbelts and get a good education here.
Well, 42 is about our children. It is student civil unrest, and they've been trained to do the civil unrest. They've been trained by the organizations that Cash was talking about. They've been trained up in socialism. They've been trained up in fascism, not realizing what they've been trained up in. But this is what the point is. Create the impression that violence and insurrection are legitimate aspects of the American tradition. That students and special interest groups should rise up and use united force to solve economic and political or social problems. And that's what, remember, they've been finding out that professors and high school teachers are getting these children paid. Anyone who's got a driver's license, get them paid, get them to these protests, and give them extra credit in classes if they'll go protest.
Wow.
They don't care what happens to the students. You just go protest. So none of this is new that's happening. And this all started, this is why the Republican Party started in 1854, is because in 1850, that's when they made compulsory attendance of public schools. It had always been homeschooling. It had always been schooling in little community. They would use the churches they built. There was a little thing that would come down in the back of the pews that would be for the desk for the classroom. And the parents, even when I was young, we were out in country schools until the school in town burned, and then they made us all go into the school in town and build a new school, and our parents had to pay for all of this. When they made those changes, then they started controlling everything that those children were involved in. And that's why these points are so severe. There's about a dozen points that tear the family apart. One is that all the negative influences are coming from your parents. And so the government's always going to be here for you, but your parents and grandparents are going to die. What's on the faith monument where the parents teach the children and the grandparents mentor, and you've met those children who've not been in the public schools and how precious they are and how rich their minds are and how they understand things going on in the world, where the children in school are just trying to get homework done. Just try and get homework done. And they did it to everybody. There's a picture for the producer, and there's a female Cherokee chief. I just want to show you guys, because this shocks the world. This is in some of my books in the book series too. This woman was a Cherokee chief in the 1800s, and they were training the children up and the way they should go. And everybody thinks that the Native American Indians were red skin, but they came from the Middle East. They were of darker skin. That's why they called all of us paleface, because we were so pale. They found it to be shocking as to how we looked because they weren't familiar with us. And so that's the difference. And what I wanted you guys to understand is they absolutely knew the truth. And when the Pilgrims came, they knew the truth. And then when the Moors weren't part of it, I just sent out something to our friend this week, and I'd never shared this before, and none of this is in my books. I was invited to meet with a group of the Moors, Moors, in central Georgia. And they brought in some of the Native Americans. One of the Native American chief from the Cherokee, who had ignored every invitation for 20 years, got my first book in the series and got his wife and his sister-in-law, his wife's sister. The three of them alternated and drove to Georgia within 24 hours of them mailing my book to him. He's like, who is this woman and who does she think she is, knowing about the Cherokee and about the Stones of Remembrance, and it all happened in Georgia. Who is this woman? And so I was meeting with him and talking with him, and there's a little surprise. I wish you were here, John, and could go to this, but the Native Americans meet once a year. And this year they invited me to be part of the meetings. Guess who they're on?
Nice.
The same Cherokee chief that came to meet with me within 24 hours of getting my book a decade ago, back in 2016. Wow. Isn't that amazing? So, and they're training up the children. They've got a SWAT program and training up the children. And the reason why I'm mentioning this is the beginning of this chapter on the 42nd point on student civil unrest, because what you're going to find is in the breaking down of the family, the school has so much control over the children that the school decides what the children learn and how they learn it and what they believe in and how they're involved. So what do? They get them involved in organizations. So if the producer could bring up the next one, because they spent 100 years. This starts with the Young People's Socialist League. This is what their league looked like back in the 1800s. And then by the 1900s, you see the Young People's Socialist League below, which looks more modern. And that's also on Satanic Portland. Anti-fascism are the same three arrows. The same three arrows are on the symbolism of the communist symbol. Also, you see the sickle and the hammer, and the Workers' Party uniting workers' unions. That's global, and that's of the socialism too. So all of this has been going on, and you see the 1933 paramilitary wing of the Communist Party of Germany. This is what their students were studying, and that's anti-fascist action. Now, I'm going to share something with you. Look at the top of that, and do you see anti-fascist? Now stop at the letter A, and what do you have? Antifa. Nothing has changed, guys. Sure. Nothing has changed.
Yep.
And the flags, the symbolism is the same. You see the 3 points on the Satanic Portland, anti-fascist? Look at the one on the right, look at the one on the left. Do you see? So they've got your young people studying up who they want you to be in the organizations as soon as you're done with high school or college. Now, vote for the socialists. Do you see the same 3 arrows? Do you know that the guy that used that, the guy's name was Eugene Debs, D-E-B-S. He was the Bernie Sanders of the time. And he was running for president from the 1800s into the 1900s. Here's the hilarious part. They got so angry with him because he was getting so many votes, because they're the National Democratic Socialist Party is the Democrats. Back from 1792, guys. They created themselves in 1792 in America, and they've always been a socialist organization. Well, then when the socialists got frustrated, like Eugene Debs and like Bernie Sanders, they go out and get votes because they're going to say the same thing, but they're going to do it softer. And they're going to act like they're your closer friend. And so that's what Eugene Debs did. Well, they got so angry. What did they do? They sent him to prison for sedition because he was trying to do a socialist America. Well, they were doing the same thing. So they sent him to prison. He gets the most votes of his entire career running for president because he did it so many elections. He gets the most votes, and then what do? They commute his sentence when? The day after the election. So they don't let him be in the election. They don't let him run. But Bernie Sanders, they just gave him $650,000 or $675,000. I've heard $650 more. They gave him $650. He bought a vacation home and he went away. So that's what they did with him. They did.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, but it's the same thing.
Interesting.
You see what I mean? But
Yeah.
all of these symbolisms go back to ancient times, and it's all the socialism, fascism, because it's not anti-fascist. They are fascists, Nazis, communists, socialists. It's all the same thing. It's all the other kingdom. It's completely the other kingdom. And you have to be in these things, and that's why even the unions have to be in these things. And did you know the teachers' unions had the same symbols? Now, if you bring up the next set of symbols, producer, this is going to really be fun. Do you see how Black Lives Matter in Antifa? Do you see how identical it is to the Communist Party and the People's Party? Do you see how identical it is to the Students for a Democratic Society that was created by Hayden, who's the president of Jane Fonda before the husband of Jane Fonda, and then after he did Students for a Democratic Society, then she did what she did with him in Vietnam, and then she goes and marries Ted Turner, and then says that I have to divorce him because I don't think he's a Christian. This is you can't make this stuff up. This is who people are. They say they don't understand these things, but this is who they are. And these fists are exactly, I pulled up all the ones for Chicago, Illinois, and the Education Association and the Teachers Association, and you see where the wrench is on the People's Party? Do you know what the Teachers Association is for Chicago? It has 3 pencil tips pointing up out of that fist. Do you see what I mean? But the teachers' unions are just a fist. There is nothing different about how they've been training these up. And then when they find really intelligent people, because Students for a Democratic Society, I won the national debate tournament in high school my junior year. And because I won the debate tournament, they wanted me to be in Students for a Democratic Society. And I said, tell me what you guys are doing. Oh, it's exciting. We get together. No, tell me what you guys are doing. Nobody could tell me a basis of anything they were doing. And thank goodness, because it couldn't make sense to me. I couldn't comprehend why they wanted me to be in that organization or be in that thought structure. But they wouldn't quit writing to me at the time. We didn't have emails and everything else. So they kept writing letters to me, trying to interest me in being in it. Now, think about Eric Snowden. Think about Julian Assange. The people who are brilliant, they want to take down. They want to get the information you have. Now, how did Eric Snowden start? He started understanding all of this stuff, thought it was really great, went in the military to serve, and then they said, well, you're not going to really be an infantryman, et cetera, et cetera. And if we can bring up the next picture, Eric Snowden knew what they were going to do in America. And this is not what they did in Germany back in World War II with the brown shirts, who studied the same way with the same kind of professors, same kind of teachers, same ideology, same process, okay? This is in 2020, 2021, when they were burning Bibles and American flags and no one was stopping them.
Wow.
This happened in America the same time that he held up the Bible and said, this is our rule of law, and went back to where they burned the church the night before. And the mayor in D.C. didn't care that all of this was going on, didn't bring the protection in to get it to stop. It was the president that had to take action and cause it to stop. So that's why they fight the president. That's why they fight Kash Patel. And is it just these that are straight communists? No. If we can bring up the next pictures. This is
the good old Masons.
The Masonic family is not just adults. Do you see the same crescent and do you see the 5-point star in the goat form? Do you see, because Americans don't know any of this stuff. They don't know how any of this goes. Do you see the double-headed eagle of the Scottish Rite? The double-headed is from the Vatican, started in the Roman Empire. Do you see the symbolism? We never knew the symbolism, and we didn't know what any of this was. But the Job's daughters are the girls, rainbows are girls, Demolays the guys, Eastern Stars the women, Shriners is above the Masonic, the Scottish Rite, York Rite, and there's a Blue Lodge that isn't even on here. But when you do the renouncing oaths, you can get rid of all of it. And here's the humor where they because the points say we have to discredit the Bible, discredit God, discredit the founding fathers, discredit the family, discredit the marriage, make divorce easy. Do you see what I mean? Get the dads out. Killing the dads is why the Pilgrims, they knew as soon as the Bible was translated into English, and the dads had two choices. You could either be boiled in oil or you could be burned at the stake, because we're not going to let you teach your children the Lord's Prayer in English. And that's the opening scene of a great little film, a DVD, and normally it's like $5. It's called God's Outlaw. It's a story of William Tyndale, who translated the Bible into English and then over in Germany at Wittenberg, and then got it transported into England so that people could read it in English. And then the fathers started being burned at the stake or boiled in oil. Now, this is where the Masonic goes, and I think this is one of the reasons that Israel is for last in this whole battle. The Supreme Court building in Israel is also the Masonic World Conference Center. Let me say that again. In the Supreme Court of Israel, it houses the Masonic World Conference Center, where they come and wear the gold aprons. And this has been covered on some of the interviews. But when you look at the structuring of it, you see the pyramid up on top of the building, the same pyramid that's on our currency. You see all of the symbolism is all the same that we never knew about, never understood.
Sure.
But all of this is raising up the children all the way through. And this, I did not have the information on the women's organization of the Knights of Pythias, or the children's organizations, where the daughters of the Knights of Pythias and the sons of the Knights of Pythias can be trained up as children in the same manner. Now, when you become, and let's go to the next set of pictures, because that'll show us, this is the Knights of Pythias, and it's supposed to be fraternal, charitable, benefactor. Okay? All of that is wonderful, isn't it? Do you see the skull and bones in that one? And on the initiate, do you see the sword on the word? And that's when you go into your initiation, you get that. But if we go on to the next one, I think I've got it at the top of the next picture. Oh no, it's not in there. So let me tell you what happens. Let's go back to that previous picture. I'm sorry, producer. On the picture on the left, that is it. And when you come to a meeting, you wear that. Everybody has to wear Knights of Pythias. And then what gets dropped below, they have a little hook. And down below, if you were a Mason to get to this level, wherever you started out. So if you started out as a Mason, you get a Mason thing, and that goes on there. So you're a Mason to Knights of Pythias. If you're Skull and Bones, then it's the Skull and Bones to Knights of Pythias. Now let me add this in. In the Catholic Church, in the Vatican, underneath all of the stuff that they've been trying to tell us about, did you know that the daggers that they use for the blood sacrifices underneath the Vatican, the symbol on the daggers is the skull and bones? Now, why am I mentioning this? Because that's the death cult. And that is taught that is the right thing to do. And the designs underneath confirm that they have sacrificed many, 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 many people over the centuries. And there's skulls everywhere. There's entire skeletons hanging on poles from the walls. It's very, very unusual, but that's what's gone on. And I'm mentioning that because all of this is related, and that's why I've said again and again, there's only two kingdoms. There's a kingdom of life and a kingdom of death. You can choose life or death.
A moment ago, you had the currency and the images, the Illuminati and different things on the currency itself. And of course, March 26th, I think it was, the Treasury Department published a press release, is how I would define it, announcing, of course, as you know, that Donald Trump, President Trump's signature, first time a sitting president will have his signature on the new currency. So that's another interesting calm in a series of steps. I'm curious to see later what type of imagery we'll have on the new currency. It certainly shouldn't be the old one imagery. And you mentioned, of course, skull and bones here a moment ago. We remember Tim Russert when he, I don't want to say ambushed, because he had a nice smile on his face. He just asked John Kerry and then also George Bush shortly thereafter, you remember a skull of bones. What's that about? It's a secret society. They both were shocked and dodged it. And of course, all of a sudden, Tim Russert left the planet. I'll let people connect the dots on that. But the skull and bones, Bad stuff. So
It's
evil.
called a
Look at
death
these
cult
images
for a
that you walked
reason.
us through.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The what?
unbelievable.
And
No,
the
I'm
prep
saying
school.
go ahead.
No, the prep school that was built by Bissell. You know how famous the Bissell vacuum cleaners and all that kind of stuff is. Well, she was a wealthy heiress and married a guy, but he kept going back and forth to Europe and then didn't come back, and they say that he died. He went over there and had a whole other family. So then she finally quit funding, but she funded the prep school for Yale. And it was all German speaking and Latin speaking, and all of this is in book 5, because I announced the Knights of Pythias in book 4, and in book 5 someone sent me the mug, and it's with the 3 handles on it, and the 2 teams were the Pythians and the Olympians, and that is from these same oaths in these same societies, but the Skull and Bones is an entry into all of these, and he was right, because you'd be shocked how many of the people that have been Skull and Bones are running the country.
Yep.
And there's a lot of similarities between all these secret societies too, because all of this came from Europe, but it was all made as they called it an act of Congress, and that was in 1864. And they credited Lincoln, saying Lincoln wanted these secret societies. Do you see what I mean? And then all of a sudden, land started being granted for their castles in every state. And that land is still theirs to this day. And people keep saying, one of the women who went there after a Doug Billings event we were at in Branson, she said, well, I want to see what this is. And she said, I'm sure there isn't one in Wisconsin. And when she got home to Wisconsin, the castle in Wisconsin was less than 3.5 miles. It was 3.4 miles from her home was the castle in Wisconsin, because you don't know. You don't know that that's what it is. So, but there's one more amazing... I'm sorry?
Yeah, just a quick comment on the secret societies. Of course, I think our audience probably knows what I'm going to say, but JFK, of course, warned us about these secret societies. You can perhaps add that to the list of a few other reasons why they eliminated JFK, the dangers of secret societies that they impose upon the people. It's nice to see the exposure of all this, and certainly through your work. You're right in there. Again, good and evil, and that's exactly what you're talking about here. You said life or death. This is an interesting time for the human race right now. What's happening, and I know how it ends. So do you. Ultimately, it ends victorious for us in the light, and we're approaching the final battles. That's the final. The final is the word from the images and things we chatted about earlier. So it's very, very interesting. It's fascinating, actually.
Well, and you're gonna love the next picture, because the next picture is the Senate chamber during the impeachment hearing. Remember when nobody could make any sound, and Schumer came back down the aisle, and this is so amazing how this happened. Schumer, I had just found out about all of this in 2019, and here in 2020, this is happening, right? And so what happened? It was on my mom's birthday, January 23, and so the hilarious part is, Schumer and Anthony Weiner are listed on the Knights of Pythias website. I can't make this up. Wow. They don't normally let anybody know while they're still living that they're even in these organizations. And that's why what you mentioned about Tim Russert, how'd you find out that I'm in this? Because nobody's supposed to say who's a member in any of this. You know, it's all hush-hush quiet, because they're all supporting each other, and we're the ones out in the cold that don't know what they're doing, because everything they do in secret. That's why President Kennedy said what is being held secret is everything secret is repugnant, because they're doing things we can't even know about, and it's our country. And so Schumer came in, and Father had me go. I was going to be on an interview, and he wanted me to show this on the interview, and I didn't even know how to find it. And I said, I got to get ready. And he goes, so I called LT, who does And We Know interviews, and he caught this for me, the video, and then gave this really, really good screenshot for the book. here's Schumer, and he'd come down the aisle and he was talking to the court reporter, and then he went to sit down, and there's a demonic entity in his seat. See, he can see the evil, but other people couldn't see it. And everybody's kind of looking at him as to what's he really doing. And the woman behind's a little concerned because he keeps trying to tell him, you got to get out of my seat. You got to get out of my seat. And he kept moving his arm, and he couldn't get the demonic entity to get out of his seat. And when he finally moved him out of his seat, he sat in the next seat next to him, and then annoyed him during the whole thing. The video covers the whole thing, but I put a screenshot in the book because people don't understand how seriously they've been raised in this since they were children. This is their whole belief system. No generation before this generation, before Trump, has had to deal with any of this, because every time somebody tries to deal with them, they kill them. And so everybody's been killed. So it's a death cult. It is a death process. And that's why, look at all the people they've killed. And people say, well, there's a whole killing spree, and this is happening, and this is happening. This is the other kingdom. This is how they operate. And the only way they can control, because there's so many of us, and a lot of us just won't die. They get so frustrated. And so they've tried everything to kill us, to eliminate us, to take us off. Depopulation is not just abortion. Depopulation is changing the fabrics you wear so you aren't going to populate. You're not going to procreate. I mean, we're trying to clean that up now because you have to have all natural fabrics. I mean, we're starting to find out the stuff in the foods, the stuff in the vaccines. All of this is taking us out. We should be living 500 and 600 and 700 years and passing the truth on to the next generations. And that's why the Pilgrims said, we're going to ban the church, and we're going to ban it for 500 years so that we have enough generations raised up in the truth so that we will never participate in any of this again. Because, guys, we didn't just comply with vaccines. We've complied with everything because we want to live. It's more important for us to live. And that's why it was so profound when President Trump said, due to the negative press, covfefe, or despite the negative press, covfefe. And when he said covfefe, they thought he misspelled coffee. It's an ancient term that means we will rise, but you will fall, because the fallen angels were still around when Enoch heard Noah's sons yell out to the fallen angels, covfefe. And now here's Father's exact composition of all of this as an opportunity for us. President Trump had the military guys building what chemically is CO, what is V, and then Fe is iron. Those chemical elements counter 5G in the cell towers. They built all these cell towers and put them all along the freeways, trying to make them look like trees. They don't look like trees. They look like cell towers. And they put them in everybody's yards and give them $1,000 a month because they'll be able to, boom, take us all out. Depopulation has been done in our food, in our air, in our medicines, in our vaccines, in everything. The water. Watch the water. So then I think this is going to be the last picture. And this is what was put up the next day. And you'll love this because LT set this up on his show and then gave me a copy. We did an interview and then he did all of this. And he showed where Soros had all the DAs and the judges. And this was all on Fox. And guys, those are where the biggest castles are located, is in those exact same areas. And so the influence that they've been doing doesn't have anything to do with the podcasters, but the podcasters that they are funding, supporting, or the podcasters who were raised up in this structure of student civil unrest. You're now seeing them go into unrest that they weren't doing before. And these organizations, from Albert Pike creating the KKK, as it was what Kash Patel was telling us, these guys were funding them to do this and then funding the protester to protest it, to make you think that they were protesting it. But all they want to do is kill truth speakers. And that's what they're killing them by court cases. They're killing them because you can't fight this stuff financially against them getting the funding, thinking, well, we're going to fight it because this person is actually a white supremacist and all this. Guys, we've been had. And so the best thing we can do is repent, and pray and rededicate this nation, because the Pilgrims knew exactly what they were doing to the children centuries ago. And here we are, 400 years now.
You know, Sheila, I want to comment on that screenshot we had up a moment ago from Fox News, the Soros map, if you will.
Yes.
You know, it's just an interesting observation. I remember, I don't know, a long time ago, many years ago, maybe 6 years ago, 7, 5, I don't know. In my home in Sarasota at the time, I had TVs in different places on with the sound off as I went about business of being in the house, just to see what they were spoon feeding the American people, Fox News. And I remember seeing Harris Faulkner on whatever the name of her show was or is. I don't watch it anymore. And it was Newt Gingrich who invoked the name George Soros. And they came this close to cutting his mic and getting him off the air. She said she interrupted him. She was in semi-panic mode. They must have been talking in her ear. And they said to her, she actually said, I'm paraphrasing, we don't talk about George Soros here. And I found that fascinating. And now look, we have this on Fox News, Soros being mentioned. So times are changing, and those hiding behind the protections that they've had from the mainstream media are slowly going away, because we are, to some extent, in my opinion, have taken over a lot of the media, even the mainstream media. And a quick comment on UFOs, it seems non sequitur, but it's not. You know, the president is about to release the files that perhaps have been around since Eisenhower that every president has seen, Area 51, you know, UFOs, aliens, these subjects. I came across something, I can't cite the source, perhaps our audience knows and they'll chat it up later, but there's been speculation that part of the reveals that may, and I believe it'll be a drip over a period of time in this UFO files, but there's a narrative out there that says the AI and medbed technologies and this sort of a thing might be related to these UFO files in terms of the sophistication of these things coming perhaps from the other off-planet entities. It's fascinating to see, but the reason I invoke that is because you were talking about, you know, living 500 years, or, you know, some people say it was, you know, 120 years, and, you know, they've prevented us from doing that by poisoning us and so forth, as you've stated. But all this is about to change. I believe these UFO files are going to be fascinating and leading to some very interesting and good news. And if these medbeds get out here, you know, in the main for all of us, what that's going to do, of course, is pretty much overnight end the healthcare industry as we know it, and big pharma. That's going to be a massive laser right into that. So it's extraordinary. And all of those listening that are, and I understand we've been through hell in these years as we're waking up to the matrix of control, our lives being controlled. It's difficult for a lot of people, but I tell you, there's some massive victories coming with all of these type of reveals that are happening. And when the American people and eventually the people of the world can get healthy and wealthy, no scarcity but abundance, and the way things were intended, you've got the golden age, and that's kind of where we're heading. So that's my little thoughts that have been running through my head as I've been listening to a lot of what you've been sharing. But that Soros map, that's interesting because, again, Harris Faulkner, I mean, you could not say that word, and now here it is on a screenshot. It's wonderful. It's nice to see.
Isn't it? Isn't it?
The progress.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, Soros has to go. His son's got to go. Some people say they've already been done away with. I don't know. We'll find out. But so anything else on?
Well, you mentioned about the UFOs and et cetera. Remember the night that Don Jr. and the president were together on a video, and Don Jr. goes, "Dad, is tonight the night when we can talk about the UFOs?" And the president just smiled during the whole thing. He goes, Not tonight.
Not-
It was. I'm paraphrasing because it was so quick, and the president always has such a good comeback. As Carolyn, it's Caroline Levitt, isn't it?
Levitt.
That
love it. Yeah.
is his. She was so adorable this week. She was just so excited. And she goes, "You have no idea how wonderful his humor is. His humor is so great." And we just all, we're just all laughing back here, but you guys don't get to. But
Yep.
his humor, and it is because he's so far ahead because he already knows. He already knows where we're headed, and he knows all of these things. And have you heard of a man named John Powder? He's got, I want to introduce you guys together. I think that would be really great. He understands the whole thing about the UFOs and about the Tartarians and how all
I would love that
they got
introduction.
help. And I would love to connect you guys together because people keep sending me his videos and they're profound, but it's not my pathway, so I'm not connecting with all of it. But now that if you have an interest in it, I'd really like to connect you guys because he's also brilliant about ancient times. He's brilliant about the truth about the feasts and festivals and cleaning all of that up and coming back to truth as believers. He's a very interesting guy. I've never met him in person, but he's got quite a following. And he's got an amazing show, and he covers really deep topics. I just think it'd be a great connection for you guys to get together.
Well, thank you. We have two producers here, as you know. Sandy, one of the producers, I'm sure she's taking a note, follow up, because I'll make an announcement now that you've invoked that. First time I'm making this announcement. But we're going to be launching a monthly panel of some staples and then revolving chairs in the panel each month. And the title of that new show was slated to launch in June, maybe July, hopefully June, is titled Off Planet with JMC Broadcasting. So I would love that introduction. Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Because, people would think I'm crazy if the president hadn't been discussing this. So I've been waiting. And now that the president is and releasing, I'm going to get there. And I'm going to get there in a very big way with some highly qualified guests that we've been looking at. So I love the introduction. And this is going to be fascinating. I think the reveals that are going to come over time concerning these files are going to be extraordinary and probably some pleasant surprises, I think, for some reason. I have that feeling. But, man,
and
it's
Don
just, go ahead.
Don Jr., I
What's that?
think he would be fun on a panel because I think he knew stuff because I could tell by his face. Dad, can we bring it up? Can we bring it up? Because is it time? Can we bring it up? And I think he was like, everybody thought he was just, when is the alien card going to be played? Because they've teased about it the whole time. But this was much, much different. I said, I don't think it's an alien card. I think there are things that he's become aware of, and he wants the subject to be talked about. So he might be fascinating for the connection for the panel.
Oh, that'd be great. Yeah. But it's amazing. I'm refraining from saying some things at this time because I don't want to upset the apple cart of our viewers, although some of them would love to hear it. But stay tuned, folks. Off Planet with JMC Broadcasting coming with some great people to analyze what the president's going to be sharing with us and to share with us a little bit further down that portal. We'll just leave it like that. It's fascinating, and the stars are lining up. All eyes on May 17th to July 4th, in my opinion, and then it's going to be an interesting time. I was talking with Juan O'Savin on Eyes on Gitmo, a military panel I have, and a lot's going to happen between July 4th and the midterms, of course, and I think they have it planned out perfectly. So everyone needs to be patient. The exposure of the individuals and the takedown of the individuals, the exposure takedown of the individuals, these corrupt demonic people that we started the broadcast off, Brennan and Obama and everybody else, that's always the end of the strategy. You cut off the choke points and exits first, You clean out, you get it prepared, then you take them down. So there's a rhyme and reason to this, folks. So don't just be waking up every day pissed off that there hasn't been an arrest. First off, there's been stuff going on behind the scenes that will be revealed to us, but this is going to be it. This is the year, without question. The drums are banging loud from every which way to Sunday. And patriots like you and I, Sheila, and everyone listening to us, most people, I should say, should be very excited about things. And anyone that's waffling throughout the dangers and difficulties that we've endured, have faith. Have faith in your Creator. Have faith in the plan. This is well thought out. It's military precision. It's spiritual. And we win and they lose. It's just that simple. So that's my advice to everyone is just, I hate to say enjoy the show, but to some extent, things you can't control, just let it play out. Everything will be okay in the end. If it's not okay, it's not the end. So hang in there and never give up. That's my 2 cents.
If we can bring up the picture of Schumer again, and there's something on the left I didn't even talk about. Can we bring that up, producer? The Schumer is on the right, and on the left there was an ad for a play that was in the community. Okay, do you see that? And as the night of the executioner, all about death, all about killing, that is at a Knights of Pythias Castle inviting the community to come. Because once you come to a meeting, you pretty much have to take an oath. Don't you like this? Don't you like that we get together and we share these things? And that's how the Masonic thing is. You come and you're invited. That's what the Lexington Triad, that's how they got in the military academies. So this is what they do. And I wanted to bring this up because there's a fun thing. If people don't think things are happening, I have friends in LA, and they said there's nothing being produced. The reason why there's no really big things being produced, the actors aren't there. Hollywood's pretty much dead. They're trying to do projects and films with people who are trying to become actors, and they said it's just flailing all the way around. It's just it's not coming together for anybody. And so if you think things are not happening. The Joe Kent, did you guys do the Joe Kent thing where the Mission Impossible music is playing? There was a cute little one, I think it was on Il Donaldo Trumpo, and Joe Kent, and the very next day, Joe Kent he was gone, retired, and he's in those pictures with Tucker Carlson, et cetera, with the other podcasters. So here's Joe Kent, and he's picture him sitting at the computer keyboard, and he's just going to town, looking over his shoulder, all scared, right? And so nobody saw what was on the right side. What it said was, top secret, data transfer processing now. Okay? And he's going like this. Then he pulls out the thumb drive. The next thing, and it's the Mission Impossible music gets more and more dramatic and a little bit louder, and he's driving down the highway, and there's only one car coming at him, and the headlights are there, and I don't know who put this together, but it was adorable, and he's going up, and then all of a sudden he gets to a diner, and it goes that quick. He's in the diner. He hands the thumb drive did you ever see this? He hands it to Tucker Carlson. This is the day before Kent says, I've resigned, I'm done, I'm gone. You know what I mean? He makes a statement. So he's doing all this, and he's handing him the thumb drive. As he hands him the thumb drive, here's all these black jackets with yellow FBI on the back. They're taking Joe Kent out. It's all happening that fast. And then the camera zooms in on Tucker Carlson. And then what happens, as soon as you see Tucker Carlson, you see the person pulling on the bottom of the chin, and the mask comes off. And when the mask comes off, the bow tie, his blue shirt that he wears, kind of a country-looking cotton or something kind of shirt, not a businessman shirt, and his blue jacket, it comes off. And here's the red tie that has to get out of Trump's way, falls into place, pristine white shirt, gorgeous blue jacket, and it backs up, and you see the smiling face of President Trump. He has the thumb drive. It said so much. I'm going to find that clip. If you don't have it, I'm going to find that clip because it's a fun one. And not anything, I think people have already seen it. It's been out there on social media, but I want you to enjoy it because it's just, and the very next day, Joe Kent announces that he's gone. So things are happening.
Oh, for sure, everywhere, and all the work that's been done I would also say by our allied forces over these last probably 7 to 10 years, the underground tunnels, the rescuing of the children, the releasing of AI and medbeds soon, and all these technologies. We've, I don't mind saying this, but some individuals have been used, done away with, recreated, whether it's CGI or clones or whatever, to get things done. And these are some pretty prominent names right now in the administration. That's what's going on. So so to the audience, the viewers, that when you hear the terms, you're watching a movie, it's a script. There's a lot of truth to that. I mean, I saw a montage video, Sheila, put together by somebody, I don't know, 3 or 4 minutes long, and 2 of them I saw. One was just 3 minutes, let's say, of like hundreds of clips of the president going central casting and another setting, central casting, central casting, and another video doing the same thing with the number 17. I mean, it's really pretty amazing what's happening. And and I've seen, I'm sure you have, Sheila, I've seen the green screen rooms of simulations, the green screen activity of how, we might think we're watching this Iran issue or this issue happening, and it's actually a studio, just like the landing on the moon. I know it's a controversial issue, but I've seen enough stuff out there that if you don't even question that subject, then you're asleep at the wheel, because the evidence is very questionable. I mean, just simply picking up a landline and speaking to astronauts on the moon in 1970 or 69 or whatever the heck it was is quite impossible. Never mind all the other things, including Stanley Kubrick's own statements before he disappeared. But so much truth is coming out, folks.
Why didn't they put the cameraman on the ship? Why did they leave the cameraman out there showing them leaving the moon? That's why they said to Artemis, too, will you please don't just go around the moon. Will you just pick up that cameraman? The poor guy's been there since it was in 1963. It's just, oh God, it's so fun. But did you notice how silent they are? Nobody's talking about the moon landing from the other side. They're just all quiet. Nobody's said anything about Artemis 2. No, we're not going to question any of this. No. It's been a real interesting thing to watch, because there's green screen pictures now of Artemis 2 also that are out there. So we'll see.
Absolutely. Yep.
We'll see.
No, it's nothing is as it seems, and expect the unexpected, good and bad. That's kind of what we're living through, and those of faith should be fairly well grounded, understanding what's really going on. And I know people, worried about our health. I am, of course, worried about our wealth. We've been attacked every which way to Sunday on both of those fronts. And that's coming to an end. That's an old world paradigm that is being exposed and dismantled, spiritually and humanly. And that is what our great Commander-in-Chief, Donald J. Trump, the military and the White Hats have commandeered, first and foremost here at home for all of us Americans, and then, of course, throughout the rest of the world. What's happening in Iran, what's happening in Venezuela, what's going on behind the scenes in Cuba right now, and so forth. Later on, we're talking Greenland, we're talking Canada. London's been neutered. Israel, as you said, you exposed... Say that again. That was interesting. What did you save Israel for last? And what was what point did you raise earlier that was important?
The Supreme Court building in Israel.
Yes.
Is the World Conference Center of the Masons, and that's the only place where they come in and wear the gold aprons. That's their World Conference Center. That's where they gather. Now, would that be happening?
Go ahead.
Would that be happening? If that was really the 12 tribes? Because the 12 tribes aren't there. So anyway, Israel's going to be retired Lieutenant Colonel Ricardo Bossi of Australia One Party that he's with, formed. He speaks often about how the world is run by the Masons, and certainly his country of Australia completely controlled by these forces. But I believe
I believe Australia may, we talk about Canada as the 51st state and all these other things. You're going to see some serious unity with the United States and Australia as we progress in due time. That's going to end that, as he states, the Masonic filth that has destroyed that country and disrupted this world quite a bit. But anyway, Sheila, anything else you want to touch on, or as we close down our episode now, because it'll be another month before
you open another cute little door. This is so fun with you. This is, guys, this is one of the most fun because we get into all of these topics. And did you know there's supposedly a 56 star flag that's out that includes the Commonwealth, which is, because Canada was already supposed to be part of America, but there was a fight over that. Right. But England still did, and everybody goes, well, so there's French too. But I said, well, the King of England was over France too. So they forget that King George III was over all of this, and His Excellency, the President of the United States. And so Australia wants to be away from the Commonwealth. New Zealand wants to be away from the Commonwealth. I mean, there's so many. But Western Hemisphere is what he's gonna focus on, and I think they're in the Western Hemisphere. I'm trying to think. Tonga is on that line. That's on the international date line, because they're the first people to start every new day in the Kingdom of Tonga. Because I was there back in '98 or early '99. So they're there, and they were a good 2-day flight from Australia. I'm trying to figure, is Australia far enough over to be under and in the Eastern Hemisphere? I'm trying to look, but the British Commonwealth, I think they all want to be free of England, and the president, I think, freed the state of Israel from England, because when he came back, between his trip to England and seeing with all the top leaders in Quantico, he made Bibi come and have a trip. And it's the first time our president said, I'm meeting with him about the state of Israel. He made it very, very clear. And that's a corporation that would be coming up for renewal in February of this year, and that was in September last year. So I'm really excited as to what we have coming up. So thanks for opening that door, because I'm trying to figure out who could be all the way up to 56, because I heard 53, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, because they're British Commonwealth. So that's 1, 2, and 3. But if there's 56, it just kind of leaves it, because they said Mexico doesn't want to be where they're at anymore. But I can't imagine Mexico or Cuba. I can't imagine those. I don't think that doesn't seem right.
I think out of those two, it would be Cuba over Mexico, in my opinion. But we'll see.
That's
but the landscape of how the world functions is what is being dismantled from every way. And you look at the operation in the Middle East now, and what took place in Venezuela, as it relates to London and Israel, and as it relates to oil, energy, and now China, of course, is in a difficult position because they got to buy their oil from who? Us in Venezuela now. So I mean, it is the power has been ripped out from under them, and they're looking around now, going, "What happened?" And it's the brilliance. It's years and years of think tank planning, if you will, that's being deployed and executed swiftly and effectively. And the average person who's watching fake news, or not doing the homework, or following broadcasts like this and some other good ones, they have no clue. They just see this, Trump is starting a war. They don't understand the nature of what is really happening. And Trump could care less. He's just getting the job done. And down the line, I've said this before, you've got Mount Rushmore. Let's make Mount Trump right behind it, overlooking the founding fathers and saying, "Thank you, gentlemen, and I've restored it." We lost it, Mr. Franklin, but I've restored it. Because that's what's happening, folks. And so anyway, Sheila, what's happening in your world? You participating in any events? Are you speaking somewhere? Any other activities out there, or
Oh,
Do you want to make an announcement now?
it is so exciting right now because I leave in a few hours and I go to Texas for a week. Last year it was in D.C. There's 200 of us that they collect, 200 people. It doesn't mean it's always the same people, but I got invited again. So I'm going to be part of the Strategy Summit again this year. And that's going to be in Texas this time. So I'll be there for a week. And then I just get back from that a few days. And then it's the prayer and rededication. And now I'm going to be part of that from the night of the 16th with events and all day on the 17th, but from 2 to 4 is the rededication. That's going to be key when the president does that on the mall. And but there's going to be dinners, lunches, everything. So I'm going to be there for 3 days. And then I'm going to have 2 days to drive from D.C. over to Kansas City. And what's happening in Kansas City is the annual Native American gathering. And they do this once a year. And the humorous part is this year, I just got the invitation a week ago, last Friday night. And when they called me about this, they said there's a person that they honor. And normally it's just the tribal leaders that come the 21st and 22nd, and then the public comes on the 23rd. And so they said they honor somebody on the 22nd, and they felt prompted to call me, invite me to be part of that. And I said, well, who is it that you're honoring? And they said, well, it's Cherokee Chief. And I said, would his name happen to be Clifton Pettit? And they said, yeah, how would you know that? And I said, well, a decade ago. This is so funny. You put up the first book at the beginning of the show, and you didn't know any of this. You put the first book up in the book series, and he got my first book, and the day he got it in the mail, he scrolled through it, and he called him, and he said, who does this woman from California think she is coming to Georgia and saying, blah, blah, blah. So he called his mapper, and he goes, well, she's right about that, and she's right about that, and she's right about that. And so he put his wife and his wife's sister-in-law, in the car. The three of them alternated driving from Oklahoma to Georgia within 24 hours of getting my book. And he had ignored 20 years of invitations to come to Georgia to talk about the stuff the people locally knew. And this Clifton Pettit, I asked him at the end of the meetings, I said, we're going to gather a bunch of people. And I filled this woman's house. And she had a big house, and I filled it. I wanted as many people hearing him pray in the native tongue, because they know the Paleo-Hebrew. They're the ones that inscribed the Ten Commandments in ancient Paleo-Hebrew in stone in all the different states. There's these big stones, and they did it so they would remember. Just like the stones of remembrance they left in Baldwin, Georgia, when they went on the Trail of Tears, that was the Cherokee. And so, because I knew all this, I said, sir, would you please pray in your native language? He said, I would be honored. And so he prayed this powerful prayer. And I said, just to let the people know the difference, would you now say the same prayer in English? And he did. And the best way I can describe it, cut a watermelon in half, put the half in the bottom of a 5-gallon bucket, and keep putting water on it for 3 days, and then pull it back out and cut a piece out, and that's how watered down. That is how watered down prayer is in English compared to praying in that worship Hebrew language of the Native Americans. It was just, and the people could see the difference. And the reason they're honoring him this year is because they asked him to do the closing prayer last year. And so all of this relates, and I'm going to be honored to be there just at these honoring days. And then at the meeting, if you're going to be here for DC, this is the very next part of the week. And the 23rd is in Saturday, and they're going to do the black leggings, and they rarely do this. And what that is, I said I saved the video. There's a guy on YouTube, and he's in his dress blues as a Marine with a white hat on, and he's dancing with the warriors in the dance. And she said, well, the black leggings. I said, I know. I said, are they all coming? So that's Air Force, Army, Marines. It's everybody. They all wear their military uniforms or their tribal gear, warrior gear, and they do the praise and worship. It is so powerful. It is so touching. So if you're going to be here in this area for DC, I want to see if you would be available. I would be honored to get you invited to that, because they want us talking to them, and I don't do interviews like you do, and they want 5 or 10 minutes with each of these leaders, and I'll send you the flyer, and at the whole left side is all these different leaders from all these different tribal nations. It is because it's a once a year time that they gather together, and so if you can be part of that. So that's what I'm doing, and then I'm gonna be in June. I'm gonna be at that fraud conference that you head up that Juan is holding in
Yes.
Vegas. I'm going to be at that in June. I'm not speaking.
You know, as you
people think I'm going to be speaking in DC, but we'll see.
Well, maybe you will be, but as you're out and about at these events that you've laid out for us, you know, if you're inspired to do so, take some video clips and some photographs, and we'll feature them in future broadcasts, because that's of interest to all of us, and especially those that are unable to be there. But anyway, thank you, Sheila, for your insights and for your history and your biblical history as it relates to the issues of the day. They've been trying to tear us down forever, and now we're clearly in exposure level, and we're again getting ready to make our moves to eliminate this once and for all. And that's what's happening. May 17th to July 4th will be biblical, and the show rolls on after that. But anyway, the best way to follow Sheila, you've seen it on the screen, the entire broadcast, hisbest.org is a link into Sheila's world, a video about her journey from as a young girl and some of the trials and tribulations that Sheila has endured, as well as all of her great body of work. So hisbest.org. I want to thank you very much, Sheila, for visiting with me each and every month here at Special Report with Sheila Holm. It's good to see you here. Stay safe, and